Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, and your facilitator here for the Captain's Table. The Captain's Table, you may ask, what is this? Well, this is a podcast where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to discuss various aspects of the game, mostly. So in the past, we've done general news shows, and recently I've been trying to do more focused topic shows to bring people on who may have some experience with some things or some of their own ideas. So with today, we're going to be talking a little bit about missions. And to help me out with this one, we have our two guests here, starting with TheNovaForge, who looks like someone you've seen before with a new name. That's because Naz is still Naz. It's just Naz has a new channel, I guess. I don't know how to new social media presence, which is TheNovaForge. So Naz, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
So I am Nazareth at TheNovaForge, as I'm trying to make it because two names is difficult. Anyway, predominantly YouTube channel. On Saturdays we are building a Argo ship in a program called SketchUp. I also do tutorials and news roundup kind of things. So fortunately, I was able to get the first one out this week, and we kind of keep an eye on all of the news that goes on through the week and then summarize it at the end. And we're also going to be going through and picking apart the deeper things, the forgotten things of Star Citizen. So like the stretch goals and like old posts and things. We're going to try going and getting them into video format. Also, we're going to try and go read through a lot of the lore and also put them into video format. Basically, any content that Star Citizen puts out, I will try to make a video of. And possibly dabbling in Twitch again because there's more presence here than on YouTube.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
All right, and it's at TheNovaForge is on YouTube.
Yep,
all one word. So, and if you're people have been asked, like, well, can I get links to some of these people? If you look at the descriptions, if you're watching this after the fact, in the description on the YouTube video, I actually have their @. You just click those @, and it should take you directly to their site. So it's pretty easy. Next, we have a new face, but not a new face to the Star Citizen community. Well, newer to the Star Citizen community. The Admiral herself, Miss SeleneStardragon. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
07. I'm Admiral SeleneStardragon, leader of the Nebula Roses. I just like flying spaceships. In Star Citizen, it all depends on the mood I'm in. I've done a lot of trucking, mercenary, bounty hunting. Mostly PvE stuff.
Okay. Mostly on Twitch, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Although I still been working on a YouTube series, but that's sort of stalled.
Yeah. It's difficult to do both. It's harder than most people realize. People are like, oh, it's just a video. There's a lot of work. And where can they find you?
Oh God, wait.
Spin.
I told people that if they had my channel up, they could mess with me during this whole thing.
Terrible idea.
So, SeleneStardragon on Twitch, all one word.
Okay. All right. So today we're going to be talking about, like I said, we're going to talk about missions, and both of these folks have extensive experience in other games. I know Naz did a lot of work in, or played a lot of Space Engineers, right, before you started getting into Star Citizen, and other games like that. And Selene does more than just Star Citizen. Selene does a bunch of other games as well, including Elite Dangerous. Yep. So we'll start with you, Selene, on this one about what does Star Citizen do well for missions? What are the things that they achieve? Like just do well. What kind of things does Star Citizen do well for when it comes to missions?
Mission flow. It's like y'all that mission flow. Y'all that play a lot of Star Citizen, the humble box mission.
Mm.
You land, you get out of your ship, you go pick up the box. the way the whole mission flows is it actually feels pretty well constructed. Or the way you land at a bunker, or the 890 jump mission. You have to fight a couple ships outside, then infiltrate the ship. The flow from arriving to accomplishing your mission and then leaving, it's all very smooth.
Okay, so from like point to point in the missions.
Mm-hmm.
Naz, your thoughts on what Star Citizen does well when it comes to missions?
Variety, I'd say.
Okay.
Like, you could go to Skyrim and you could find, a dozen bounty hunter missions or fetch quests, but Star Citizen has, especially in 318, and specifically in 318, there's racing, there's box missions, there's bounty hunting, mine claim. Like, there's a good breadth of it currently, and that's only going to get much, much better in the next 2 years. We just got the SCL. They talked about salvage and mining missions. We know they're working on cargo missions. So there's a lot of difference of missions, so a lot of different types. I would say.
Variety.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'll ask you the other thing. What does Star Citizen fall down on with missions? And we're when we're talking about this, we're not talking about like bugs or anything like that. We're just talking about the design of the missions. So Naz, what do you think that CIG falls down on when it comes to their mission design?
I think the easiest thing is within their variety, they don't have much variety.
Once you stole my line.
Sorry. Like once you do a mission, that's it. You've done 99% of all the missions. Like once you do a box mission, that's it. That's the exact same thing you'll do every single time you have a box. The difference is just the destinations. And once you do a bounty hunting mission, it's the exact same thing. There's no difference in AI. There's no difference in movement. There may be a slight difference in ship. Like the Arlington mission, like you go all the way up to an Idris. Sure, that's like but that's a single branch.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a bespoke like branch. There's not like.
Blue in chat has a good point. It's a pretty common failing in a lot of games.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Like especially early days, No Man's Skies. Like the second you played a half an hour of No Man's Skies, you knew the entire game. It was just repeat. But Star Citizen is aiming at such a higher tier. They want there to be, like, especially with like the VNPC mechanics, they want every interaction with missions and with NPCs to be at least flavored differently. So I'd say the variety within the variety is the problem.
Okay. Selene, is you gonna say the same thing?
Well, I would tag in.
Go ahead.
The limitations on the criminal side.
Okay.
Because there's more to being a criminal than just killing people.
So
criminals
just
need logistics and stuff too.
So like the lack of variety within even criminal missions, let alone just the normal missions.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Hell, but like we have the destroy the drugs on the lawful side. Let us have one where we have to hold up a bunker and move something out of it, like, I don't know, part of the payroll for that planet or something. Let us do an Andor.
Okay. Like an actual hold up.
Yeah.
Is anything else that you think CIG falls down on when it comes to their mission designs?
There are certain types I would like to see, but I think they're in the works, so I can't really say that. Like actually moving real cargo, not just a couple boxes.
Okay.
Maybe, and when data comes in, that'll be another I would like to see. Flavor and variety, basically, like Nova said, or Naz.
It works both ways, yeah.
It works both ways. So, all right. So knowing the kind of the strengths and weaknesses of Star Citizen's mission stuff right now, let's look into like the near future. If you had a choice, if you could have CIG's ear, what do you think would be important for them to focus on in the next year or so for mission development? Selene, we'll start with you on this one.
For mission development.
Like missions going forward, would you have them fix the current missions? Would you have them add new missions? Would you, what do you think should be the sort of focus for CIG if you were there?
I'm not entirely sure there. Like, one of my favorite moments doing any like mission chains or whatever was like I did the Arlington chain.
Mm-hmm.
And actually going to the bar and sitting and talking to the guy. I forget his name off the top of my head because
I always forget his name.
Single brain cell. But
Naz, do you remember the guy's name?
I want to say Titus. It was definitely not Titus.
It's not Titus.
It's right there, and I could have said it right before you asked.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about, though. Yeah. It's
Miles Eckert.
Miles Eckert.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing to have. And we were talking about flavor of missions. Having the occasional time where we have to go, if we're doing bounties in Hurston space, maybe we have to go turn something in at the main office or something, or have a emergency communication from Hurston security or something.
Okay.
Just something to give us a little more flavor about where we're doing the work.
So more flavor when it comes to like mission chains, rather than just pick up a box, but like something that makes that box unique, something that mission
or
specific.
Okay, I do a Red Wind box mission.
Yeah.
And my contact is very, very cordial, very nice with me. But let's say I go over to Line Hall, around Microtech or something, whatever their company is. Let's say over there, I do some missions. The boss there is very demanding. He's a real asshole or something. Or it doesn't have to be those exact points, but you get what I'm saying.
Something that differentiates them beyond just a name. Mm-hmm. Okay. Naz, what would you think if you could do one thing like this for this year? What would you ask CIG to focus on?
More foundations. We have like the box mission is a great cargo foundation, but like all of my stuff would be based on gameplay that's not technically in yet. We know we're getting something from Squadron at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It ported into Star Citizen. I imagine that's a lot to do with actor status. V2, I believe we're at. The HUDs and stuff like that. The one thing that hasn't been mentioned is they already said hacking was functional in Squadron.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the hacking foundation, which includes information and exploration foundation, because it's all data. So, like getting those foundations in, like as much as we'd like to like have the game go wide as soon as possible, if we don't have the foundations in for all of the things, we're just going to be building, very slim towers on the pillars or on the foundations we have. Once we have the entire base of all the loops that we want, for beta, for launch, we can have them start to interact and things. So let's say your box mission, you wrap up in that, and then you're moving data. So I think if I were to ask CIG to focus on one thing, it'd be get more foundations in. We have now racing in 318, so we need hacking, and then we need exploration and hacking are kind of the same thing. So yeah, more foundations.
More foundations. Okay. All right. So talking about missions, I do want to bring this up as well. What would you if you were to think about this right now, based off think back to when you were first playing Star Citizen, what sort of missions would you want CIG to focus on for newer players? Like what we know that CIG is working on the new player experience, but what kind of things would you like to see in, say, a new mission system and a new player mission kind of setup? I'll start with you on this one, NovaForge.
Cargo, big box cargo. Pick up a mission, pick up the mission that is the cargo that fills the whole sea to move across the galaxy. That is
So
instantly
instead
what I
of
wanna
box
do.
missions, you'd want to have big box cargo for new haulers.
Yeah, because
Okay.
like that's kind of the mid end game. Like, there's two end games for cargo hauling because cargo hauling is not a single pillar. It's two pillars. There's trading and there's cargo. You can make your living and career either way. One is you're only doing like missions from companies to move their stuff, or you're picking up trade like we do now and trying to sell it at a higher price than you bought it. Other than that, what I would want is infiltration stuff.
Okay.
Like, we know we had that on the roadmap a while ago, and I don't know how it exactly got in game. It's supposedly in game. Though I don't know if bunker missions count as infiltration, but basically the sneaky go to a terminal, hack the thing, the belligerent duck story, where they had
Yeah.
to sneak into Bering, download the file, and somebody tripped over a wire and the alarm turned on, and they had to make their escape. That kind of thing. Like, that's a great new player experience.
Okay. Selene, if you were to do to see, what would you kind of want to see for the new player experience sorts of missions?
Well, I sort of have two ideas.
Okay.
One, there's one thing Elite does. One of the first types of missions you can get. It's called a courier mission, where basically you're just ferrying a letter from one point to another. So it's what we tell new players. Okay, get in your ship, do these missions. It gets them a chance to learn how to navigate from port to port. So having a mission where we just deliver a correspondence from one planet to another or something. Second idea would be get hired as a crew.
Okay.
It's like, oh, this caterpillar has to haul across the system. Do you want to hold a gun and look important? And maybe you would have to jump in a turret or something. But you would have to, it would give you the chance to no risk to you, no risk to your ship. Just go to the port, get in certain ship, take off, and just let the NPC sort of handle it as you just learn the ropes of being a crew member.
Okay. So more of a I'm like to let people have a place where they don't have as much what does that say? Skin in the game. They don't have as much on the line, but they can still earn some money. Yeah. Okay.
That kind of something we haven't talked about is the beacon system at all.
How so?
Like, when she said get hired as a crew, I thought, well, we don't have any beacons currently to like hire a gunner or hire a pilot. We only have the escort and
medical
transport. Medical
we have a
and
medical
transport.
beacon. We have transport, escort, and medical are the three.
Okay, so there's three. Like, we don't have onboard crew. We have no way. Like, technically, you can do escort as the onboard crew because it just requires you be in a certain range. And even like flying cargo, I've done escort mission beacons to hire a pilot, so they can just have a minutely or however long it takes for it to tick to get a crew. I think it would be really cool if they had a like when you talk about design, especially in social games, there's not only the game learning curve, but there's also a learning curve for the social aspect. And there currently is no learning or curve, anything. There's no incentive in the sociality of Star Citizen. You get in game, and it's just like, okay, there are other people there. You don't need to interact with them at all. But if there was like a mission saying, hey, you have nothing, you need to go get something, or these people are in good reputation with MANCHACA or whatever, go get hired as a crew, go get reputation from them. Like, there's something to connect you with other players on a more of a, it's up to you to get connected with it, instead of like, by the way, everyone's going to Jump Town because reasons. Because that's
Okay.
that pulls you. There's nothing to push the player into it.
Okay. Let's move on. Kind of like talk about that a little bit more. When we're talking about missions, bringing up new player experience, because I think for a lot of people in Star Citizen, missions is their first like tutorial, as it were. Most people will hop on and do things like box missions or the bounty hunting missions, and those missions are how they kind of learn how to play the game. So the question becomes, what sort of tutorial mission would you like to see? Someone who just gets into the game, what sort of mission would you think is the first perfect way of introducing someone to the universe of Star Citizen in a mission format? Naz, I'll start with you on this one.
Off the top of my head, exploration. Because all that would include, like, go scan an area kind of exploration. Like, hey, there's a mountain over there. Our maps are outdated, so go fly your ship over there and then come back. Like, it gets you to your ship, it gets you flying your ship, it gets you navigating an area, and then it gets you back and landing. Like, as far as an intro to the game, that's perfect. Like, after that, you can go into your space combat or your ground combat or whatever you want, whatever pulls you in the game. But as far as just like that very first half an hour gameplay, go somewhere for like 10 minutes while you scan the area and come back.
Okay. Selene.
Are we talking like what's currently in, or
What
based
you'd like
off
to
experiences?
see, based off experiences.
I keep going back to this, but in Elite, one of the first missions you do, first anythings you do, is basically your pilot's exam.
Okay.
They set you up in a virtual course in a approximation of basic ship with some computer guards in place. And you have a contact that talks you through the mission. Okay, launch from the station. Here's how you do it. Okay, you're out of the station. Here's how you strafe left and right, up and down. Now fly through these rings to show me you have attitude control of your ship. And this is how you jump to another port. I've already selected the target, so here's how you do it. So a pilot's exam.
Okay.
A pilot's exam.
Yeah, I am partial to that idea. I've always had the idea of utilizing those Rick Arena Commander and utilizing those, because way back in the day we used to have these pods that you'd have to climb into to access Arena Commander, and you'd only be able to access it from the hangar. And
they're bringing that back.
Yeah, they are bringing them back. They're still in the game.
That's still what Chris wants to do. As far as 2 years ago, I think.
SD mentioned having it as a forced beginner instance. You could absolutely, like, all right, like you have pilot's exam in the Moby class, you go take it, and it takes you to a simulator that looks like your starter ship. And then all of a sudden, just boom, you're in like an Arena Commander setting.
Yeah. I think skipping it is also probably fine too, because like you don't want to necessarily.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely skip it in Elite.
Yeah.
So if you're on your second account, just skip it.
And knowing CIG, what I bring this up a lot, but I think the perfect way of approaching in-universe, like approaching someone as like, hey, this is the universe you're in. The perfect example that CIG's already done is, is it Korea? No, it's what's it called? Kleischer. that voiceover guy, the overly chipper voiceover guy, you know, he's perfect. He sets the mood.
Yep.
You know, go ahead.
I was agreeing with you. This is just the hello and welcome.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to your, welcome back into the world, civilian. Like, yeah, that's overly
right.
Yeah.
We need to have a mission. We need to have a mission where we meet him.
Yeah.
Man, that.
But that's what I mean. Like, he has that clippy aura, that clippy vibe, and we need something like that. Some sort of snarky dude who's like, "Hey, you want to fly? Oh yeah, you come over here and take your pilot's license or your flying license." And you're going, nah.
I would be on top of that.
Yeah,
it would be like an appointment. You walk by, the thing would pop up.
Yeah,
it'd be really cool if they made it a AI guided lesson to where it wasn't an NPC, but it was an AI, and so everything in a given area, maybe like it's a UEE like AI tutorial thing.
This is the UEE, not AI. We can't use AI.
Well, not real AI, but we have AI blades that track targets and can do that.
Yeah,
so like
stupid AI.
AI that can tell you what to do and see if you've done it or not. And basically, there's like the UEE like tutorial book. And so every time you want to learn a new section of the game, let's say like, okay, flying, you get that voice. And then you want to get into cargo. Well, for a lot of these cargo people, you need to fill out the UEE cargo exam. And it's that same guy. So every time you want to try something new, you have to go to him.
Yeah, I love this one. Something like that would make a lot of sense. But CSG already has the blueprint because the dude who does the Kleischer voice is already does great job of like they already kind of walk you through that experience without hand holding you, telling you what you can do. You good? But you could do something where you have a guy behind a desk. You walk up to him and he's like, "Hey, yeah, here's your takeoff code or whatever. Your keys. Here's your keys." And then here's the license, and you can say one of the options you might be able to say is, "Nah, I'm good," and you're like, "Okay, cool. You don't have to do the license, but I'll see you back here shortly." Because
it would be like a completely optional. No, I already took it before I came to Stanton or whatever system ends up actually being the starter.
Yeah, and it basically allowing you to do it and have him have his own unique dialogue of being like, "Oh, you don't want to take it? Okay, enjoy crashing."
And
so that
the UE is big enough that it would be believable that you've already taken the exam somewhere.
Yeah, and there's no laws that says you have to fly. You have to have a license to fly your ship. It's just it's just request. It's like a nice to have sort of thing in there sort of thing. So you can just kind of there should be a way of doing it, but I always like to think of an idea of them being snarky. So when players who are like, I know what I'm doing, I don't, like new players who come in over cocky and then immediately crash their ship and have to go back to talk to him again, and be like, "Oh, I got to do tutorial," and have him go, "Oh, you crashed it, did you?"
No, just sort of lean in you return. He just sort of leans on the desk, looks at you, and just like, "I knew you'd be back."
Yeah, exactly.
They always come back.
They always come back. That's sort
you're
of
coming just from the hospital just now.
Or he could just say, "I saw that whole thing."
Yeah. So something like that. Some sort of snarky way of doing it because CIG. That if I was going to say something to CIG about that, I'd say that's definitely how you get the player's attention. Everyone knows when I say the voice at Kleischer is the perfect like introduction to Kleischer. Everyone knows what I'm talking about because at first you're like, this guy is really weird and chipper, and every time you do something wrong, he has that like that. Oh no, you certainly did something wrong, and you. Half the people want to like punch the dude and the other half are just like, this is hilarious, but you understand the universe from his dialogue, and that's exactly what you need something who's gonna stand out enough that you remember them, but not someone who's gonna force them like stuff. So go ahead.
Someone also brought up the shopkeeper from the gun store in Grimm. I
Yeah.
think they're also in the clothing store on Area 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can kind of understand anyone that's worked in retail in chat, you understand where that guy's coming from.
Oh yeah. I'm not even supposed to be here today.
We've all wanted to be
Yeah.
able to just talk to customers like that.
But yeah, so those sorts of things. All right. Now, let's get into the wild, crazy stuff, because we were talking about this before the stream about how I think everyone's gold standard for missions is the PI wanted mission. It is everyone's favorite mission. If you haven't done the PI wanted mission, you're playing Star Citizen, go play it, and you'll understand why so many people enjoy it. So
I still need to do
And take
that.
your time. Don't rush it.
don't rush it. Take
You
your
won't
time.
fail, but you'll get the bad ending.
There are multiple endings to it, that kind of thing. So we've talked about this a little bit more. Selene, how would you add more, like we're talking about, like you say, mission givers or those sorts of kind of more narrative missions? What sort of narrative missions would you like to see in Star Citizen? Knowing that you come from Elite, and so you have things like the Thargoid invasion, you have the various other events that take place in the Elite universe as mission chains, as well as their own sort of missions that deal with each of the individual factions. In Star Citizen, what would you like to see in that sort of vein? Like event missions, story missions, that sort of things. What kind of
I
missions?
have to think for a minute.
All right, I'll start with you then, Nas.
Okay. I'm really hesitant to like rely on mission givers because,
Okay.
as they've mentioned, they want tens of thousands of players per server, and like we already know everyone loves the mission giver missions because they're narrative focused. They're not a dime a dozen missions.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some flavor on them, so they are going to be like focus points. So there needs to be some way, like I think they did it with the Twitch missions, where the first mission is through the Mighty Glass, but after that you go to Twitch.
Yeah.
So it's everyone who kind of stays with it goes to the mission giver. Like I would love to see the actual statistics on like how many people willingly go to mission givers and how many people just forget mission givers and move on. But I think everyone like goes to a mission giver eventually. And with tens of thousands of people per server, even with let's say 60 plus systems, like let's say there's a mission giver or two per location per landing zone, that's still not many focus points. Like there's a lot of systems that don't have good landing zones. So it's I like them, but I think it makes more sense to have more like the dynamic missions kind of thing as like those like focal point missions, and then lean more on the procedural side, like even with investigations for the most of the gameplay.
How would you ensure that you still have that variety, though? You know, because as we said earlier, like the problem with Star Citizen is that the good thing is has a variety of options, but the actual choices inside those options are so small. So how would you ensure that you still have those variety of options if you don't have the kind of narrative stories?
Well, that goes back to what Selene said. Like, make the missions themselves, like not the missions themselves, but within the mission structure, like the box missions, have the letters you read to get the mission be different. Have different feels for like the kinds of places you go. Like instead of having any cargo place service any outpost in any like drug den, have higher class cargo box missions stick to higher end places. So I feel like, say, FTL or Kovalex, maybe they stay only in cities. You're only going from New Babbage to Area 18. And then you have that second tier that kind of goes to all the outposts. And then the third tier, maybe then you can find the like the colonialism stuff, the rundown places.
Okay.
Like
Actually, I think I came up with one. Talking about the box missions.
Mhm.
All right. you doing a delivery around Area 18, you drop your box off, all of a sudden you get a personal mission pop up. A guy's like, hey, can you meet me at Area 11 where you happen to just drop off a box? So you find him in a thing, and he's trying to build a ship. And that's what you're actually delivering, a part he ordered. And he works with you directly. And you can, he's like, here, have certain amount of money. I need this part for the ship. And you can go to the Dumbers Depot in Area 18, and you could have a couple options where you could get the best part he could get with the money, or you could get a cheaper part and pocket some of the money for yourself. And eventually it would come together with you watching him try to launch the ship, and based on the choices, how it would perform.
So like narrative missions hidden within the everyday missions.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a really nice idea.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I was gonna say something like, because there's definitely a way you can. The way that I believe CIG is approaching it, and I could be wrong on this, is that there are tiers of the missions for the mission givers. So you have something like a TCM mission where you go there, you do the mission, then she says, "Hey, I need to test you out. Do this bespoke mission that I have." And then you have various missions that she'll give you until you've reached up the trust level. Then she'll come call you again and say, "Hey, here's the next bespoke mission that I need you to do," and then leads it through the story. So as you gain the trust, she trusts you with more and more difficult missions. But in between, there are missions that are kind of similar difficulty that are more dynamically generated rather than unique. But I do like the idea of something like that, because you can do a mission like that where it's like you're helping to build a ship, which doesn't involve money.
It would basically still be box missions.
Yeah. But you're delivering parts.
And you can also even recreate that mission with a different NPC and a different ship. So even like that second tier in.
Or you're helping someone build a cyclone for a race they're trying to jump into.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like even this like second tier that you've like made up is also able to be much like box missions and procedurally generated.
And
so that's really cool.
And you don't necessarily need to have them physically there, because they could just be calling you like, "Hey, drop this off at my garage. I'm not there to pick it up." And you should have a voiceover actor who talks about it. And maybe you meet them at the end of that mission chain, but it makes sense as well.
We already have the shelves to put boxes on to complete missions, so we just put it on a shelf.
Yeah, I really like the part that like sells the entire idea for me is watching your the what's it called, the things of what you did, repercussions of what you've done play out at that last final. He tries to launch the ship or drive the thing, because we have the rooftops. Launching ships would be really easy once you get to the end of the mission. Say he calms you again on the Mobi-Glass and says, "Hey, I am on this roof. Come and help me do last minute flight checks." And so if you got all these cheap parts or like salvage it yourself or whatever, and he tries to put it in his quantum drive or power plant explodes, that's your fault, and you're gonna have to deal with that. Or if he like flies off perfectly, you have some pride in that final scene. Like that's just straight up Chris's alley.
And you also can have different options where like if you piss that guy off, now you have negative reputations with that guy, and there might be other repercussions down the line, because maybe you work well for that guy, and then he's like, "Hey, I got another friend of mine who's doing it," or he happens to be this guy happens to be an engineer with Anvil, and this is just his side project, and now you have an in with Anvil Aerospace. There are different ways you can do that, and it's replicatable. It's super easily to replicate. With just
they also could blow back on the cargo mission the box mission you did, because like you started as getting a box mission from one of the hauling companies, and so if you then piss him off like early in the mission, then like, well, I'm gonna leave a terrible review on you. Like,
yeah, okay,
the reputation goes down. That's really cool. I really like that idea.
And it's simple because we're using what we already have in the game now, almost. So
maybe some missions that don't pay out as much, but you do work around Microtech, and they're like, "Hey, we're holding a thing for our employees. Meet us at Wally's bar," and maybe you could hear ambiently pick up ideas about checking on a couple other leads while you're there or something.
Yeah, that would actually work well with the dynamic conversation system.
Yeah.
Like
And
having NPCs drop ideas about other missions.
well, also having just events, because there's one thing that I think a lot of people discount, but I think people would do, is if there was a unique like event tied to a mission chain, like go to this party. You don't necessarily have to like
Hell,
do
you
anything
don't
in
even have to
missions.
get anything out of it. Just
You're
they're
invited
like
to a party, you know.
you get there. They've
I mean,
got a bucket of beers or something,
Yeah.
couple others, and it'd just be cool to just see that, you know?
Yeah.
I would really like if, like, down the reputation chain of bounty hunting, there's like an assassin tier.
Mhm.
Where, like, because everything Star Citizen does seems to like play off that Hitman vibe.
Yeah.
With like all the NPC interactions and stealth missions and things, they all seem to like be using the exact like plan of Hitman. So I'd love to, like, if you're like you get down the bounty hunting track, and so whatever organization you're bounty hunting for says you're really good at this, we have this black tie event we want you to go to. We can't back you up on this, but we need this guy taken out.
Agent
Just like
47.
Just Hitman,
just put Hitman in the game. Is what you're saying.
yes. I mean,
This
they already have
criminal is
9%.
using X other company to protect him. We
Yeah.
need you to get in there and get him out. Take him
Yeah.
out. We can't just take him to prison. We need him gone. But the only way in is through this event.
Yeah.
And then they could, like,
And
on top of that, add
if
like you
something
need to
goes
kill him this
wrong, we
way with
didn't
this
send
weapon.
you.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah. I like the idea.
Hitman,
And it also
Hitman Citizen.
it also adds because they talked about how they do missions, which is they do modules. They build a module and then they string those modules together to create a mission. Like for instance, the module for Korea is there's like a dispenser module, and then there's a PvP module, and there's other like and there's a boss module. So like each of these modules can be plugged together to create different mission types, and that was just their kind of proof of concept for it. So if you did say like an infiltration module, then they could easily add that in there too. Like now you have to figure out a way of getting into those sort of things. But yeah. And I will correct chat right now because it says CIG doesn't want chords, but yes, that's the idea. CIG is adding chords to the game.
I was working on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's we just don't have the system in yet, but yes, we will have chords.
They made that announcement in
Chords?
the latest monthly report.
Coordinates on a map.
So like grid coordinates. So so like grid 5, 224 by 556 or whatever.
No, they haven't announced me being able to drag cord wires all across my ship to jack into different things. The power drive's out. Take the computers. Jack them in.
All right. So let's talk about the last one before we wrap this up and move on to the question and answer session, because one of the biggest missions that people really love doing is the events. So let's start with you on let's just talk about like your favorite events and then what kind of events you'd like to see in the future. So let's start with you there, Naz. What events would you really enjoy? What are your favorite events, like of the dynamic events?
Favorite so far is Siege of Orison, and then closely behind it, Xenothreat, and then all the others are basically insignificant. I just really like those two. Siege of Orison is great, and I don't know if they screwed up the ships on the last one they did, because I wasn't able to steal a ship and just leave with it. I was able to do that on the first time they played Siege of Orison, but I really like Siege of Orison. It's a really good mission, especially if you have a team and you're going in there and backing each other up. It's unparalleled in many things.
I mean, all I know is that I can go without armor and just go punch all of the Ninetales.
For now,
I'll find a way to do it. Even when the AI is working. I'll find a way to sneak up on them and snap their necks. They got perception.
And then the elevator opens behind you.
As long as they don't end up like Ready or Not AI, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. Selene, your favorite events. I know you haven't been playing as long as Naz, so I don't know if you've played all of the events. But what are you so far? What are your favorite events?
Xenothreat, Siege of Orison, Ninetales blockade is basically like conflict zones in Elite, just a little larger and more involved. So I guess it would be like Xenothreat's Siege, Jump Town, then Lockdown.
Okay.
I guess I'm also tired of Lockdown because that's all they give us sometimes.
Because it's always broken or no one plays it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hate the Lockdown. It's the least interesting of the events in my opinion. Everything else is a lot more interesting.
I think Lockdown will be a lot nicer.
Star Citizen can nail space battles, and I have some really cool memories from Ninetales, but
when it's the only flavor of ice cream,
it is at the end of the day a space battle.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think Ninetales blockade will greatly benefit almost, I want to say more than Jump Town, when it becomes actually plugged in to Quantum.
The spool up.
Like
the 2-hour spool up.
Yeah.
I think when Ninetales are actually like dynamically locking down these stations and they have reason for them, I think it'll greatly increase the not just CIG decided to give us a bone today, when the game itself is doing it and CIG can't warn you because they didn't do it. I think they'll help the blockade ones.
In that case, the spool up will make sense when it's triggered by Quantum.
Yeah. As a way of announcing people, but so Selene, knowing that we have now, what sort of it doesn't have to be specific, but just like general ideas for dynamic events you'd like to see in the future.
Ground battle. Give us a reason to use our tanks and ballistas. Something where, okay, we can't fly ships over, but if you've got vehicles, you could land at this point. We have a staging area here. You need to drive in, run in, ride in on whatever, and get in.
Okay.
And you have tanks shooting things and stuff. That would be a sort of a dream for the whole thing.
Yeah.
I've had an idea similar to that for a long time about a blockade. That's what I always thought that maybe we might see with the Ninetales lockdown was a sort of like a city under siege, and you're running supplies to the city, but they can't fly it in, but they can drive it in, and it's a little bit easier because of the defenses and everything. So it's all about cargo transporting. So you get all this cargo into vehicles and you drive it. You can try to fly if you want to, but it's just going to be.
We need a truck first. First, give us a truck. I think there are two that come to mind other than what you guys are talking about, because those are like necessary, especially like because Tau is kind of that thing.
Yeah, but Tau is a separate entity from like in game, like a reputation based.
Yeah, but we see how like the in game missions are being brought over into Ring Commander. Tau needs to be brought into the persistent universe so we can at least attempt to have that kind of a thing, especially with the ability to.
Wasn't the development they've already done for theaters what gave us Siege?
Yeah,
some of the work. Yeah. But that's again in Norsen, not a ground battle; it's a platform battle. Like if that happened on like a Hurston outpost or something, some like more built up area.
Yeah.
Something like that. But the two that come to my mind are the events that actually we do, like the sail events that we do. We do have Invictus technically in the game, but like that swarming of the pedestrians, like that we see in the ads for IE and Invictus. Like actually having like those social events.
Delanar wants some broadsides and crisis suits.
I do too.
I mean, Javelin and Titan suit.
I'd love giant stompy mechs and the greater good there, Della.
And then the other one I would think of is the mass need. Like they do a lot of the like around events, like you'll get paid lots of money for doing fireworks and things. But like, let's say a supplier has canceled their Crusader's order for titanium. And so Crusader now needs to find a new supplier, but for now they need to call on the locals and say, hey, we need as much titanium as you can bring in now. So it just activates all the haulers in the game because it's at a premium. If you can get any scrap of titanium, it is worth any journey to get to Crusader and drop it off.
So kind of like a jump town with less violence. Because like jump town is a similar concept where like the prices go up when you're selling maize. It's only for the illegal side of things, but
just get your hauling in gear and just get there.
Okay, all right.
Especially with the
there's a natural disaster and you need to run supplies in.
You could even attach that with search and rescue.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a great addition to that one. Especially after we get having to load our own cargo.
One moment. I think someone wants heresy. Wait.
Down in 1-800-HERESY.
That's what. I can't bring up the heresy right now.
Oh darn.
I've got a corn berserker outfit.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that's good. But yeah, no, I'll kind of put in there as well. Like I'm always gotten down for more non-combat based missions, but I'm always down for a good combined arm, something that is very specific. Like an idea I've had for a while is outlaws have bases. They need to kick out outlaws in bases. So your job is to go to, say, one of the new UGFs in the future that's entirely controlled by outlaws. You have to fight your way into the base itself through ground vehicles, through air vehicles, and once you get in, you have to go through every level and clear them out, and in order to complete the mission. As kind of like a
while also holding off reinforcements.
Reinforcements, yes. So kind of like a Siege of Orison, but reversed, where you're the attackers, not the Nine Tails, and your job is to try to kick them out, sort of thing. So.
Cool. So what you're saying is CIG just needs to hire content creators as mission designers.
As mission designers. Well, I think a lot of these ideas are the same, but that CIG would have. But it's always nice to talk a little bit more about kind of where these events should go and hearing those different ideas. Cardboard.
The box.
I've been put into stealth mode. Don't mind me.
Oh, okay.
I'm still here.
That definitely works. I don't know if either of you heard boxes against real AI actually work.
Yes. Solid Snake works. So.
Yep, Solid Snake works. That's great. We can beat our AI overlords with a cardboard box.
Yes.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think. I think that's it. I think that's what we talked about. It was good discussions. We're going to move over to our question and answer session. So if you all are watching this after the fact, make sure that you have followed and subscribed to TheNovaForge and Selene on their various social medias, Twitch for Selene and YouTube for TheNovaForge, especially since that's Naz's new site, a new channel. So make sure you go check that out. And if you enjoyed this, make sure that you are subscribed to us on Twitch or on YouTube. So subscribe on Twitch would be nice too, but subscribe on YouTube and follow it on Twitch and join us live on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'd love to have you come out and watch it yourself. Watch yourself and ask your own questions. I'd like to thank Selene and Nova again for coming in. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.